What's going on, guys, and welcome to another episode of This, That, or Something Else. I'm your host, Adam Martin, and tonight we look at everything potatoes. Thanks again for joining us tonight, guys. As I said, I wanted to kind of get this one across. I think it's a very important one. And it kind of goes exactly to why I actually do this, series to kind of really inform you guys of a lot of the misconceptions that are around some of the foods and why we're told certain things are healthy for us and why certain things are unhealthy. And I just like to pull apart that a little bit more and kind of really give you guys a bit more of an understanding of what's going on. So let's get straight into this. I want to dive into what I always do, guys, to kind of compare them up and just a pure kind of calories and carbs, fats, and protein straight off the bat. So I always look at 100 grams. It's easy to do. So if we're looking at 100 grams of sweet potato, 100 grams of a white potato, this is kind of, where you do get most of the, myths around them and why sweet potato is a little bit better than others. So sweet potato has 90 calories per 100 grams, whereas the white potato has 130 calories. So straight off the bat, most people probably aren't going to eat much more than probably 150 grams of potato in a serving, and that's probably being over conservative. Personally, me, I love my potatoes. I've always said this from the outset. I love them fried, I love them baked, I love them roasted, I love them mashed. It doesn't matter how I get them. So I have a lot of potato, and I save my carbohydrates so I can have that. Whereas most people, if you're having your green veggies and potato on the side with your protein for this evening, you're probably only going to be having 100, 150 grams, and 40 calories is not going to make a whole lot of difference in the whole scheme of things when most people, as I said, females 1,600 to 1,800 calories for the day and males from about 1,800 to 2,200. So 40 calories, really not going to make a difference. So that whole, calories making a sweet potato better for you is completely off. So if we now go down this kind of scheme of what carbohydrates, proteins and fats are there, carbs for the white potatoes, we're looking at 29 grams, whereas carbs for the sweet potato is 24 grams. But funnily enough, sweet potatoes actually have a lot more sugar in them. Now, sugar comes from the fructose. It doesn't actually come from refined sugar that you find in a cereal or something. But it is higher on sugar, just like a lot of kind of very colourful, dark vegetables, like carrots and things like that as well. Again, it's very minimal, guys. Protein, both the same at 3 grams there. And fat, of course, there's no fat in vegetables. So then looking at kind of the macro breakdown as well, guys, they're basically exactly the same. So if you just take them on the absolute surface, sweet potato versus white potato, almost exactly the same. Marginally more calories on the white potato side, but not a whole lot. I guess where they mainly get their huge kind of benefit and kind of healthy status from is the fact that they're a bit higher in vitamins and your macronutrients, as well as the glycemic index. Now, we'll go to glycemic index in a second, but let's talk about vitamin A just for a second. So vitamin A is really important for your immune system. It's great to guard your cells around carcinogens and toxins and things like that. It's also good for vision, and it's been known to also help with cardiovascular health and things like that. But that's, what vitamin A does. Now, let's see what the levels of vitamin A are. Now, in white potato, vitamin A is quite low. So let's kind of delve in a little bit more of why or how much more vitamin A is in a sweet potato. Now, it is huge. Now, I won't skim over that fact. Vitamin A in sweet potato is massive. Now, we're looking at it about, in that 100 gram serving, you're looking at it getting about 400 times the amount of vitamin A that you need per day in a sweet potato, whereas the white potato is very, very minimal in that one. Now, where I'm going to debunk this whole vitamin A issue and why it gets this kind of status of being healthy because it's got the vitamin A is found in huge amounts of food. It's found in a heap of green vegetables. It's heap in your meats. Sam Burns, thanks for joining us there. It's found in meats, poultry, fish, and it's very, very rare to come across someone who has a vitamin A deficiency. In the States, you might hear this kind of fortification of food. In the States, they actually fortify their foods and add vitamin A to it. So things like dairy and cereals over in the States actually have vitamin A added to it. So it's almost non-existent that vitamin A deficiency occurs. And the fact that you get 400% of your vitamin A daily intake, so 4 times the amount that you need, actually doesn't make any difference. You can't over supplement yourself on vitamin A. So unlike kind of when you have too many calories and you store them and you get fatter as you go along, vitamins in particular, not just vitamin A, but all vitamins in themselves don't actually, Matty White, hope you're well there, brother. Vitamins don't actually get stored. Now, they just get processed through the liver and basically out through the kidneys, and away they go. So vitamins, even though you're getting huge amounts of them, at 100%, once you've got your daily intake for them, the body just processes the rest and gets rid of them. So the whole fact that you're getting 400% matters not. And even though the white potato is low in vitamin A, you're going to probably get enough anyway from the rest of the food you're eating if you're eating a balanced diet. So don't stress too much about that. So the whole issue around vitamin A, guys, don't stress too much about it, because as I said, it's very rare to come across someone who's got a deficiency in vitamin A, and the fact that you can get it from a whole host of other things, as I said, green leafy vegetables and other coloured veggies such as your carrots and broccoli and things like that, you don't have to really stress about vitamin A. Now, the other one that's kind of gathered a lot of issues around your kind of, I guess, healthy status for the sweet potato is this whole glycemic index. Now, again, on the surface, glycemic index with your, and let's talk about glycemic index. Basically, guys, it was invented around, or kind of produced and kind of made for diabetics, because it talks about the insulin kind of reaction that your body has when you eat certain foods. And it kind of goes against gold standard as white bread. Now, white bread has a score of 100, and everything else is ranked in between, either above or below that, and kind of how quickly, in comparison to that, your body reacts to it. So the humble old sweet potato has a score of 46 when it's boiled. Now, if you roast that, or you fry it, or like your sweet potato fries you get in a lot of fish and chip shops these days, because of course they're healthy when you get sweet potato fries, it sends the glycemic index through the roof. So this whole glycemic index for them, if you do have it boiled, is quite low, whereas you're comparing it to a white potato is a lot higher than that. But let's just look a little bit further into glycemic index and exactly what it is, and is it actually of any benefit. And I had a little look around the internet today and kind of had a search through some studies, and there was a recent study done by the Harvard School of Public Health, and it took 163 overweight individuals and took a look at their diets and kind of put them on a low glycemic index diet, so foods that were very low in glycemic index, and then kind of just followed them up along the way to see if it had any beneficial effects on their parameters of health. Health being cardiovascular health with regards to your blood pressure, looking at insulin sensitivity to see if they were any better on their diabetic kind of scales. And over the entire the whole entire study, their markers actually dropped very minimal in comparison, and really not of a kind of standard amount or a specific amount that would actually kind of show any difference whatsoever. Glenn, hope you're well, hope the family's well. So this whole glycemic index kind of became favourable when it became marketable for certain diets such as Atkins. I'm sure we've all heard of that one. And much more commonly these days is the whole paleo, and paleo kind of pride themselves on eating diets that are very low in glycemic index and very high on protein, minimal carbohydrates, and as such, I'm sure you guys have heard and know about paleo diets. So it became much more popular to market this whole glycemic index around those particular diets. And of course, I guess anything that can kind of help people kind of buy their product, they'll try and sell this on point. But the whole glycemic index, unless you're a diabetic, now diabetics obviously need to be very aware of what their insulin levels are doing and make sure they're eating foods that aren't going to kind of have these huge spikes in insulin, because their body just can't get rid of that insulin. So this whole kind of issue around glycemic index for the rest of the general public, it's been shown that in quite a number of studies, but in particular this Harvard study really showed it heavily, that it just doesn't have a whole lot of benefit to your overall health when we're looking at kind of health markers, when we actually kind of test people, be that cardiovascular health, your insulin sensitivity anyway. So again, a little bit debunked around the kind of whole issue around glycemic index. So that kind of, I guess, spreads our two issues over white potato versus sweet potato. And I just want to kind of get across again, guys, that I'm not favouring one side or the other. Nothing wrong with sweet potato. I actually love the flavour, but I'm not going to choose it over white potato because of the factors that we're led to believe make it a healthier option. Calories, as I've now outlined, are very similar. their macro breakdown are very similar, and this whole thing around much more vitamins and nutrients and glycemic index aren't really of any concern to you. And on that whole scale of shit that matters that I always talk about on kind of calories in, calories out of where you should be when you're looking at losing weight, don't kind of stress yourself about the rest of these kind of marketed type issues that kind of, I guess, many food items and food products trying to push across. So that kind of breaks those down, guys. And now let's look at kind of my something else. And this is probably a little bit surprising too, because it would definitely be considered an unhealthy food. But let me just get it up there for you. I don't know if you can even see that. Let's get that open. Crinkle cut chips. Yes, crinkle cut chips. I've told you this before, and I'll tell you it again. I am an absolute potato fiend. I love my potato, be it sweet potato or white potato, be it roasted, baked, fried, mashed. I don't care in what form it comes. I love my potato, and carbohydrates, guys, I've always said it, are very important to our lifestyle. Don't let anyone tell you that carbohydrates are evil or that they're bad for you. Those paleos out there, you're all wrong. And I want to break it down for you in both cost and exactly what the kind of macronutrient breakdown. So I'm not comparing it to sweet potato now, guys, because those potatoes that I've got and that I just showed you there are white potato. But when we look at the macro breakdown of those white potatoes, those potatoes in a bag that you'd put in the oven and bake them up there, don't get them mistaken for fried potatoes that you go to a fish and chip shop or something for. When we compare to the humble white potato with that packeted potato, the macro breakdowns are actually almost exactly the same. So when we're looking at calories, they're 8 calories more for 100 grams. So we're looking at 138 calories for 100 grams of the chips compared to 130 calories for the white potato. And when we look at the carb breakdown, carbs are, 29 on the white potatoes, and they're 21 for the carbs on the baked potatoes. So very minimal. The only real difference is the fact that 4.5 grams of fat you find in those potatoes, where you find no fat in these, because those potatoes are pre-prepared, guys. They will be kind of flash fried very quickly to kind of get them ready and just get them to be able to kind of, I guess, kind of transport them. But then you throw them into the oven, they're baked. They're not fried, they're not put in any oil. So they're very low in fat, very minimal protein, very similar, but you get the same amount of carbohydrates. And this potato at the moment, now it's on special at Coles, but normally potatoes, $3 to $4 a kilo. That bag of a kilo of fries, $2. So they're already prepared. They're just easy to throw into the oven. They come out, $2 a kilo later, you've got chips, whereas you have to kind of cut these, prepare these, and do all those. Same amount of fiber, same amount of calories, same amount of carbohydrates. So I'm not telling you to go out and have those chips every single night and make them part of your staple diet. But again, if you can make them fit into your diet and you know your numbers of how many calories you should be having, you know how many carbohydrates you should be having, and you've got a little bit of fats to play with, go and have some potatoes and have them as a kind of oven-baked potato fry. I've certainly got no problems with it. And if you came to me looking for a weight loss program, I'd have no problems giving that to you if chips were something that you could not live without. And that was your kind of, and I always do this with people who come to me with their Summer Lee, hope you're well, hope the family's well. And I always tend to do this when people come to me. I ask them, what's a staple item that you cannot do without? And let's make that part of your diet so you're not going to kind of binge and crave it at some other point. For me, if I was being asked by a trainer, what's your staple? It's chocolate and it's chips. So if I can fit them in my diet, I'm certainly going to make them fit in my diet. So I just wanted to kind of throw a little funny one in there for you guys. And just to kind of, again, illustrate to you that just because it's a chip doesn't necessarily mean that it's an unhealthy item. Again, I'm not saying go and eat that every night. But again, don't just kind of think that the humble raw potato that comes straight out of the ground is organic, is a huge amount better than what you're going to get in a packet set of fries. So I guess that's our episode for tonight, guys, of This, That, or Something Else. I really do appreciate you guys joining me each and every Thursday night. So I see so many regular faces now coming through. It does really humble me, guys, that you guys will spend 10 to 15 minutes of your night when you could be doing anything else. There's plenty of stuff on TV. I know that MasterChef is on tonight, and it's a very popular show, that you guys would spend 10 to 15 minutes watching me, and it really does humble me, so I really appreciate that. But I'll see you next time, and as Mike Vacanti always says, your body is still counting macros, even if you're not.